Well, thank you so much, Denise, for this opportunity. I love giving back, love sharing just what I've learned because that's honestly how I got to where I am today. It's kind of weird to hear Denise say $2.5 million in sales. There is no way 17 years ago when I started selling cocoa that I would have ever thought that that number would be attached to my name. So yeah, it's exciting to be here. And I know some of you have worked with me, some of you haven't, some of you have never even seen me before, and that's okay. I think just knowing that we're all running our own race here is probably the most important thing to start off with, because a lot of the things I'm going to share with you guys about attracting people to the booth are kind of personalized. I'm going to share some things that work for me, some of the thought processes I have, and the, I guess, concepts or theories that I operate on. But I don't think that there's a necessarily a one right way to go about this. But there's probably a few wrong ways you can go about this. So I'll try and share some pitfalls and some things maybe not to do, and then as well as some things that I would recommend doing. So and I'm loving the chat's already blowing up. You guys are awesome. All right. Well, let's start this. So my topic that Denise asked me to cover was just attracting people to the booth. And like I said, there's a lot of different ways that that could be done, and no one right way to do that. The first thing I want to talk about, though, is just your booth in general. I love Haley was actually at the festival that Mike Payne and I were working this last weekend in Mountain View. And when we were doing setup, I had her come to the front of the booth and take a look at kind of my thought process on how I laid everything out. One thing I didn't do and explain to her that I think is important to talk about is basically taking a walk. Walk the area surrounding your booth and think through as if you're the customer. Kind of put the lens of your customer's eyes on and think to yourself, okay, if I'm a customer walking down this street or walking down this aisle in the expo center or wherever you're working, what's catching my eye? What am I noticing? What's the good? Like, what's catching my eye in a good way? And maybe what are some things that don't look so good, don't look professional? Not just about your booth, by the way, but just the customer's experience, the surroundings, because there's different booths around you. For example, I know that some of the like the eye cream people or hair people can sometimes be super aggressive and hollering at people and almost scaring customers away. Sometimes they're maybe in the same side of the row as you, and they push people away from you on the other side of the aisle. And other times there's people doing that on the other side of the aisle, pushing them over towards you, right? And if you've never gone to I'm assuming most of you have been to been to shows and you've seen what I'm talking about. If you haven't, just kind of pay attention as you're field training. Maybe walk around and experience what it's like to be a customer. Get hollered at by these people. See what your feeling is when you get pushed away or attracted to, right? And get that experience for yourself, because that's going to give you a little bit of a flavor of what you're doing for your customer or to your customer. And I use those two words very intentionally. And so that's the first thing I'm going to suggest is just kind of like wander around as if you're your customer and think through, okay, what's attracting me? What's repelling me? Obviously, we're going to try and be more attractive than repelling. Um, the other thing I want to talk about is, let me see here. Is how far back will a customer be able to notice it's Cutco? So, for example, this weekend I worked with Mike Payne. He has a canopy, a pop-up booth that is Cutco branded, right? So you can see the name Cutco for like a block, right? Down the way. We also put up wind flags and stuff like that. I try to be as um, noticeable as possible from as far away as possible within the rules of the organization. Some places won't let you put up wind flags, some places will, right? All these different things. But do the best you can with the rules that are in place, with being able to be as noticeable from as far back as you can. And so This is just a way of making sure people who know the Cutco brand, they see it, they become attracted to it, right? So these are things that maybe you don't have to do actively, which I'll get to in a bit. But these are like passive ways of attracting customers over to your booth. Now, the brand name Cutco doesn't always resonate with people. So I also like, for example, on my tablecloths and backdrop, to have a big giant set of knives as large as possible, as obvious as possible, so that somebody who might be thinking to themselves, I could use some new knives, right? When they see a set, that they're like, oh, this booth is selling knives, even if they don't know the name Cutco. So those are the ways that you can kind of attract customers to your booth passively. Now, I want to also talk about how we present ourselves, right? There's what the booth looks like, but then when somebody shows up to the booth or they're walking past the booth and you're talking to them, how do you portray yourself, right? There's a level of professionalism that is attractive. There's a level of casualness that's attractive to people. And we want to try and find that balance, right? I'm almost always pretty much, I think I'm always in something branded Cutco. I want to look professional as possible, but I don't show up in like a button-up suit and all that sort of stuff. That's too professional, right? That comes across a little too salesy. So you want to find that balance, right? And everyone's got their own style and own opinions. I'm not going to be the fashion police here. I'm the furthest person from being qualified for that as possible, but maybe ask a significant other or a professional partner, maybe send Denise a photo of yourself and just say, hey, what are your suggestions here? And we'll give you our tips. And if you're hungry for knowledge and improvement, we want to provide that for you. So that's a few things. Now, um, there's also hygiene, right? Obviously, when you're talking with somebody, you want to make sure that things are well kempt, that your teeth are brushed and all that fun sort of stuff. I recently grew my beard out pretty far, and I started to become self-conscious of it because I felt like it was a little bit too out of the realm of professionalism. And I love it. Yes, going to start modeling for Denise. Yes, Martin, you should definitely do that. Uh, Denise would love all your modeling photos, I'm sure. I don't think so. Um, anyway, but yeah, anything that makes you feel uncomfortable is another thing you want to address. I remember many, many years ago, I was in a leadership development training program, and they were teaching on public speaking, and they talked about how when you're public speaking, your audience can kind of feel whether or not you feel comfortable. And they talked about how if you're super nervous, you're kind of sweating or whatever, you're shaking a little in your boots or whatever. One suggestion they gave is to just acknowledge that and get up in front of the stage and say, "Man, you guys are making me nervous, and I'm sorry if I come across nervous, but I respect you guys so much that I just want to do a good job, and so I'm just nervous in front of you guys. Hopefully I perform well and what I intend to get across comes across." And so that's a thing that really helps me too with customers is I just call it out, whatever it is. Maybe it's not nervousness, but just acknowledging something that is maybe in the back of your mind because um, we all have a sixth sense when talking with people, right? You can kind of tell if somebody feels a little off about something. And the presenter who was talking about this also pointed out that if you have a hole in your sock, nobody in the audience is going to know you have a hole in your sock. But if you're kind of fiddling around a little bit, you're kind of moving your toes a little weird or kind of swaying back and forth a little awkwardly, your audience is going to feel that, and your customers very similarly are going to feel if you feel a little bit off about something too. And so that's why I trimmed my beard the other day, is I was starting to feel that subconscious thing where maybe no one else noticed it, maybe it wasn't in anyone else's psyche, but it was in mine, right? And I don't want anything to dissuade or repel, right? This whole topic is attracting people to your booth. Well, it's also attracting people in general, right? To want to do business with. And one of those ways is just to not have some weird little thing going on in the back of your subconscious. Does that all make sense? I know that's kind of a weird topic, but okay, I'm seeing some head nods. That's perfect. Appreciate that. All right. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is different ways to actually get people over to the booth. Body language is a big clue to pay attention to. The way that you are noticing customers walk by you tells you a lot about what they're thinking. I'm always looking at their shoulders, right? Like if someone's shoulder, like we've all seen when people are walking by you and you try and bring them over to the booth by commenting about something or saying something, which again, I'll get to in more detail in a moment here. But we've all seen those customers who are like, oh, I have Cutco. This stuff's awesome, but they never turn their shoulders and square up to you. They just keep walking, past your booth. And so I'm always looking at their shoulders. If they're turned away from you, if they're bladed away from you, you don't have their attention. So you get their attention, or you have their attention once their shoulders go from turned away from you to squared up and looking directly at you. That's how you know you've got somebody's attention. So I'm always trying to find ways to. I think the word manipulate doesn't quite get what I'm trying to say across, but you want to try and find ways where your communication with them uh, helps to encourage certain behavior, right? And so it's trying to find that body language that is receptive to what you're talking about. Um, let's see here. Some other things that I look for is ways I can compliment somebody or comment something to somebody. If they have a piece of jewelry on or some sort of attire that they're wearing, might be their shoes, might be a ring, might be a handbag, it might be a stroller, whatever the case might be, whatever it might be their dog, right? Like whatever is obvious to you that you can make some sort of positive comment on. Now, this could also come across really wrong, right? If you're somebody who says things in a way that doesn't seem to come off, very well, find ways to have like a few lines that you can get good at. If you're not quick on your feet, right? We all have different skills. I've not been good at that at times, and I've had to develop that. The way that I started learning how to develop that was in like grocery stores or lines at stores. I used to be very socially awkward, shy, quiet, very reserved type of person. And so one of the ways that I developed a ability to speak to people who I wasn't comfortable speaking with was just at grocery store lines. And what I would do to start, if you're somebody like me, this is a tip for those of you, shy or nervous to talk to strangers or people. One of the ways that I developed this muscle was I would wait till the cashier was about to start taking like things off the conveyor belt and start to service that customer, right? So in other words, they're maybe the customer in front of them was paying. At that moment in time, I would actually say something to that person about something on the conveyor belt. Oh, I see you've got some apples there. Are those pink ladies or are those Fuji's? I can't quite tell, right? Whatever comment like that, right? Just some little thing like, oh, beer and ice cream, man, we would get along well, right? Or whatever the case might be, right? Whatever silly comment you want to make. Now, the reason I waited until they were almost ready to be checked out was because I didn't want to engage in a long-winded conversation with them. I wanted that conversation to be over with as quickly as possible. So I would start with little tiny things and I would wait until I knew for sure this conversation had no room to last very long. Well, eventually I got more and more comfortable with people, and I'd start talking with them maybe when the person in front of them started to be checked out. So maybe there was maybe a 2 or 3 minute window I figured I would have the ability to have a conversation with them. Eventually I got comfortable enough to where I'd start talking with the people waiting behind me, right? Where I'd have as much time with them as I was going to be standing there. And so that was just a fun little way for me to get more comfortable making random comments to total strangers. It's a way of practicing where you're not going to possibly lose a customer, right? So that's one tip I have for you is practice, right? Practice making super like total strangers, like making them friends very quickly by talking about something common. So again, back to the booth, talking about their dog, talking about a hat, saying a comment. Now, here's my biggest tip with any of that sort of stuff. Make sure it's genuine, right? You don't want to say something that's just like isn't sincere, right? So if you don't actually like their shirt, don't say, "Oh, I love your blouse. That's so cute," or whatever. Like people can sense that stuff. Again, back to we all have a sixth sense and can figure out a phony pretty quickly, right? So make it genuine and make it about something that you're passionate about, right? So if you don't actually care about purses, then don't say anything about purses. I have never once said anything about a purse unless I saw a purse that maybe I knew my wife would like, right? And then it was like a quick little thing. Oh man, that's a cool purse. I think my wife would really dig that. Like, where do you get something like that? Or something along those lines. For me, I love opals. So if I ever see a woman with jewelry on and it's an opal, like I don't care about diamonds, but I see an opal, I'm like, oh, that's a super cool opal. Is that a fire opal from Australia? And they start talking about like, oh yeah, that's how'd you know that or whatever. Oh, my grandma loved opals too, and so I just always started learning about them. And so people can tell when I'm genuinely enthusiastic about something, right? And then of course they're going to be just as enthusiastic. And it's a way of creating rapport, creating trust, and of course, starting conversations about Cutco. So another thing is, for me, I like to look for things that can lead into a conversation for me about business gifts. So if somebody has a hat on or a piece of clothing on or whatever, and I notice a logo, uh, even if it's actually it could even be like a John Deere logo that I know is not their business. I might say something like, oh, do you have a John Deere tractor, or you just like the hat or something like that, right? And if they say, oh no, I have a John Deere tractor. Oh cool, are you a farmer, or you just have a lot of land, or like what's the deal with that, right? Oh no, I have a riding mower. Oh, that's cool. Why do you have a riding mower? Oh, I've got 13 acres and blah blah blah. Well, if they got 13 acres in the Bay Area, you better believe they probably are a business owner, right? So I'm always looking for ways to start conversations, and logos are a great way of doing that, and a great way of segmenting or segueing, excuse me, into a business gift conversation. And then the last couple things I'll say is just having fun. Talk about the food they're eating. Hey, I'm always looking for that, amazing dish that I get at the last day of the fair. What are you eating? How do you like it? Scale from 1 to 10. How would you rate it? Stuff like that. And so bringing people to the booth is really just something you get to practice, right? It's something you can practice at the booth, but again, you can practice outside of the booth in everyday life, learning how to say things to people, complimenting them, noticing things that just create rapport. You've all done enough appointments, right? That you know how to build rapport in a certain environment. Um, it's really not much different at a booth, and bringing people over to your booth is really all about just making a friend with somebody, and eventually that conversation, right? They square their shoulders up, they turn to you. It becomes an easy way to segue into, hey, by the way, since you're here, have you ever heard about Cutco? And now you're off to the races with your scripts and all that sort of stuff. Now, I wanted to leave enough time for any Q&A or people to offer some thoughts or ideas that work for you as well, because again, I'm not the only one that knows how to bring people over to the booth. But I'd say the last thing I'll share with you before we open things up for Q&A is my number one objective when people are walking by and it's my turn. I know Danny, I heard him call it fishing. I love that term, because you're just kind of casting your line out in the water and seeing what bites. And for me, I just really, at the end of the day, I want every single person that's walking by the Cutco booth to notice Cutco's there. So even if it's just as simple as saying, hey guys, how's it going? All right, I'm not trying to holler at them. I'm not trying to say, "Hey guys, you ever heard of Cutco?" or "Hey, we're cutting deals." Like I like that. It's fun. I say it sometimes. But I don't want to say something over and over again that gets repetitive to me. I want to make it fun and unique and exciting and mix it up a little bit. So I like saying certain things that we all say from time to time, but I also don't want to be stuck in that pattern. I just, at the end of the day, want their eyeballs to look at the booth and notice that Cutco's here. And if they're interested, they ask questions, we start the dialogue. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you guys. Of course, I'm happy to answer any questions or start a quick little dialogue of any topic, as long as Denise is willing to have me. So Denise, I'll turn it back over to you and open it up for Q&A.
All right. Does anybody have some questions for Carlo?
I apologize if you hear my dog in the background. He is whining because my wife just got home. And I'm going to pop the chat open here and see if anybody put anything in there as well.
Haley is sharing a nugget she got from you guys at her field training. It's just like at demos, make them laugh. That's a really good one. Um,
Nice. I didn't see any questions in the chat. That's good.
yep, I don't either. Um, and I'm trying to see if I could think of something offhand that would be helpful for everybody, question wise. But I think you did a great job covering the look of the booth, taking a walk around the event, taking a look at the aesthetics, how things are set up. Who are your vendors around you? What does your booth look like? Do things look inviting? How are you presenting yourself? And then from there, just having that like in attitude of, saying hi to people, being friendly, and then finding kind of a common ground or something where, um, you know, commenting on a logo or a clothing item or food or something that's engaging that is not like, hey, look, you want me to sell you some knives? Like, um, so, having that balance of being friendly and not pushy and just kind of being relaxed, like you said. So I thought that was a lot of really good info, especially for people who are newer. Maybe you haven't done your first event yet, but even just a few great reminders for those of you who have been doing shows. And, maybe there was a couple things that you were like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That was a great refresher. So, I will ask one last time. Anybody else
Ooh,
have
actually,
questions?
let me say one other thing. I didn't even think about this during my preparation here, but some things not to do. Don't be staring at your phone. Don't be involved in conversations with your booth mate so much so that you're ignoring everyone walking by. If your turn is up, you should be engaged with people walking by the front. So that's something I didn't say or think about is the what not to do's. But that just popped in my brain as something that might be important to remind all of you because that's something we're all guilty of from time to time. But yeah, if it's my turn, pretty much without fail, I'm not looking at my phone. There's just no room for that because people will look at you and think, oh, they're disinterested in talking to me. Why would I step up and talk to them? Right. So you want to look engaged as well. So just popped in my brain there. Thought that's an important thing. Stop checking
Yeah,
Instagram.
yeah. Um, so Kayla looks like she's got a couple things that she wants to key takeaways from your talk, and then also some additional nuggets she said that she would like to share that she's gotten from Dwayne Murdoch, and a couple things from Adam as well.
Um, yeah, first one I want to say, Carlo, I love what was the refresher you said is like putting us in their shoes of like step away from the booth and be in their shoes of like, oh, what catches my eye? And of course, like put the knives in the front. So that was super like a refresher nugget that I think we all tend to forget about. Um, but a nugget too, I've heard and seen Dwayne do this and Adam. But if they're a Cutco owner and they think like, oh, it's okay, I already have Cutco and they're walking away, and just getting like a certain knife. And one they probably don't have at home is probably the cheese knife because it has holes and it's like, oh, do you have this one? And like pointing, or this is a mentor with Anastasia Esquivel too. So body, again, you said body language, but like hand gestures, so like, oh, but have you seen this one? And then it's like, oh, which one? So it makes them have to come to the booth. Like, so yeah, with that, like actually pointing. And then when I've seen it with Adam, it's like, um oh, like, I know what you don't have, and it's like the 4-inch vegetable knife, because if they got it 5 years ago, we have the 6-inch and the 4-inch. They definitely don't have that. Where it's like, oh, do you guys barbecue? Hey, come here. Like I've seen Dwayne do that, and then
Come
show
here.
the Hardy slicer. Um, And then I know some people said in the chat, but like Kids for Toys. And Carlo, you verbally briefly set this up how at the end of the day, it's getting them to even just look. And Dwayne has told me too why it's just like, hey, how's it going? Or just again, small things to get them to the booth. It's because, especially at fairs or just wherever you're at, people are, I think he calls it like a herd, and it's just like they're kind of tunnel vision, they're looking down at their phone, or like, oh, it's a group of people, so they're just like, let's go with the crowd. So just like a, oh, hey, I like your hat, and it's like, what? Like, oh, sharp shiny things. And so it just grabs their attention. So yeah, those are some nuggets I want to share.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, can I ask one
Yes,
thing?
absolutely,
Okay.
Jonathan.
I did want to say, I really do like, I had been like commenting on watches. Like watches are something that I'm super enthusiastic about. So hearing you say that like, oh, I comment on purses and opal or whatever you're enthusiastic about and it draws people in, it's like reaffirming. I'm like, great. Um, but I do want to ask, like, what are some of the things that you do when you do see that like body language where people are turned away from the booth or um like, hi, I love Cucko, bye. Like what's some of your like draw in phrases that you use, Carlo?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Kayla actually definitely reminded me of something that Brandon Brown taught me, which is, someone's walking by and they're like, oh, I've got, or already have them, or something like that. In other words, like, oh, I already got them. I don't need to see anything because I already own them, right? In their mind, they're thinking like, I don't need to stop by the booth. But you say, oh, but have you seen this one? Right? Or something like that. It's a great way of getting them to stop. Um, what else? So your question specifically was like, yeah, can you ask that question one more time? I just want to make sure I'm answering it.
Yeah, when people like are have that body language where they're just like hi bye, what are your phrases to get them in?
Yeah, that's one of them. Another one is, oh, hey, by the way, quick question for you. Do you need your Cutco sharpened? Right. So again, this is assuming they're like, oh, I've already got Cutco, right? Oh, hey, by the way, do you need your Cutco sharpened? They usually say, oh, I didn't bring them with me. Like that's what you hear probably 50, 60% of the time. And I always say, oh no, I didn't think you had your knife set in your pocket, Mrs. Jones. But I actually we're going to be coming out to people's homes when the show's over to do some complimentary knife sharpening. Do you remember the Forever Guarantee? Yeah, it comes with free sharpening, but you probably, have always thought you only could send it back to the factory. So as a courtesy, we're doing in-home appointments when the show's over. So basically, all we do is get your information of where phone call or phone number for phone calls, text messages, and let you know when we're back in the area. So something like that works great sometimes because they've been wanting their knives sharpened. They've been thinking about it. They've just been putting it off. They haven't wanted to pack them up or didn't know how. So that's another way that you can get people back to the booth if they're continuing to walk. Um, what else? Trying to think if there's any other thoughts, but yeah, that's what comes to my mind initially is those two things. Is that helpful?
Yeah, for sure. Hearing it from Kayla initially, do you have this one? That was something I've never heard before. Um, Usually I feel lost in that moment. Or like my favorite is when they come up and they're like, "Oh my God, I love my Cutco. I've had it for 30 years." All right, bye.
Yeah.
But I
Yep.
come up
Yep.
just to tell you that.
The Cutco
Um, one of
confessional.
one of my favorite things is ask, oh, which ones do you have? Right? Because you have
Mm,
the knives laid out. Oh, which ones do you have? And they're like, I have this one and I have this one.
hmm
So they stop and they turn and they look, right? And start pointing out the stuff they have. So then they start seeing, oh, I don't have that one. What is that one for? Right? And so it starts creating like some interest. And then from there, you can kind of, explain like, oh, we have an upgrade program or we have this or that, but it gets them looking at the knives and it gets them sharing and engaging with you with, the stuff that they already own and realizing it's not everything that Cutco makes. And yes, they do get excited to show you what they have, right? So Kayla just commented that in the chat. But I've also seen people give them a high five, like, "Oh, you have Cutco? That's so awesome! High Cutco owner high five," right? And it gets them to come over to you and high five you, and then you could always follow that up with, "Oh, which ones do you have?" Or have you seen this one yet? Right? And you're showing like a 6-inch or a 4-inch vegetable knife from there. So, anybody else
Yeah.
have questions for Carlo?
One other last thing I'll do, actually, sorry, while I'm thinking about, is I have a
Yeah.
testimonial page. Sometimes I'll ask, hey, would you mind writing down just what your favorite thing about Cutco is for those who don't have it? So that's another way I'll bring people over to the booth. Is I have a little testimonial book, and it's a great way of showing potential new customers just how many people have Cutco, what they have to say about it. So that's another key one as well that just popped in my brain there.
Awesome. Jonathan just shared in the chat, Karen Wirtz brought stickers for Cutco owners to State Fair. I don't know. Did it say like I'm a Cutco owner or something on it? What did it say?
Yeah, it was like, oh, I've had my Cutco for X amount of years. And anytime they came up and they said they had Cutco, we'd be like, how long you had it for? And they'd come up, we'd give them the sticker. Um, and they're just super excited. We give them high fives and then they talk about Cutco. So it was fun.
That's awesome. And what does Sarah use to close new customers? The testimonial page?
Yeah, when Sarah's scheduling service appointments, she has like she does it on paper. And it's like the appointment information, and then the last thing she has them do is a testimonial on like the last column. And then it's like write one thing that you love about Cutco. And she'll literally just like when she's closing, she'll pull out the paper and just be like, see, Joe here has had his Cutco for 13 years and loves it. And like whatever they wrote down. So I just thought that was interesting when Carlos said that.
Awesome. That's a nugget. Haley is sharing another nugget from you, Carlo, from her field training. I actually come with the knives. No, I won't you do your laundry or wash your dishes, but I'll sharpen your knives. Sounds like you got a lot out of your training, Haley.
We had fun.
Good, good, good. All right. Well, does anyone else have any questions for Carlo about attracting customers to the booth? All right. Well, thank you so much, Carlo, for your time. I appreciate you being
Always.
here, and I know these guys got a lot of value out of your message today. And hope you have a great rest of your night.
Absolutely. And Blake, so good to see you, man. I miss you. Bye, guys.